Good evening, folks. It's 7 p.m. in the UK. What is it? I guess it's like 2 p.m. in the afternoon on the East Coast at the moment. Our clocks have got back aligned again. You guys were 4 hours behind for a little while, and it screwed me up so much in terms of scheduling shows and that, certainly with myself and Frank. But no, we're back. The UK's clocks went forward this weekend. Forward? Yeah, spring forward. And we're in a good place. I know exactly where the time zones are now. Welcome. This is the second live Slashers episode that I've done. Last week I did one. 2000 to 2009, a tier ranking. Just keeping an eye on my internet here because it seems to be crapping out a little bit, but I'll hopefully there's not too much of a wobble. But today it's 2010 to 2019. Just as active in terms of slasher movies as the previous decade, and some interesting titles here. I don't think it's as strong maybe as 2000 to 2009, but there's certainly a lot of titles. It's just that some of them aren't that great, I don't think. But we'll have a look. And folks, if I miss any, it's probably just because I either haven't seen them or I may have forgotten. But pop them in the comments below. Don't automatically assume that I've disregarded them. There is around about 27 or something like that here to talk about. And I want to kind of do it in the space of about an hour. So I've got a busy day tomorrow. I'm going over to Ireland in the morning, first thing, like 5 o'clock. So I need to be kind of in and out with this one. So apologies if it feels a bit rushed. I'm not intending to rush it, but we'll see if we can do it in an hour. If it runs over, it's fine. It's fine. But let's move over to this screen right here. And you can see all the titles. First off, the tiers. In the fifth tier, we have If They Don't Let Us Play, They All Go Away. As I said before, folks, if you know what any of these quotes are that I'm talking about here, then pop them down in the comments section below. Fourth tier is Felix. I knew we were into some sketchy shit. Third tier is One Generation's Tragedy is the Next One's Joke. Second tier, Why Are You Screaming? I Haven't Cut You Yet. And at the top, He Is a Killer, but He Will Be Killed Tonight. If you have any idea what those are, either pop them in the comments or pop them in the chat down below. Not many people have been picking up on these quotes that I've been putting here. So if you do recognize them, do give us give them a nod down below, and we'll have a chat about it. See if you guys are on the money or not. First movie that we want to talk about is A Nightmare on Elm Street from 2010. This is the remake directed by, I think it was Samuel Bayer, if I remember rightly. Produced by Michael Bay. As we know, Michael Bay went through a series of doing a bunch of horror remakes in the sort of 2000s and 2010s. Texas Chainsaw, Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th. Like, he didn't have enough on his plate with all those Transformers movies that he was doing. He churned out a bunch of horrors as well under his Platinum Dunes label. Released on April the 30th, 2010, rated R, 95 minutes, 15% on Rotten Tomatoes with the critics. It really didn't go down well. And not too great either with the audience, 43%. Excuse me. I honestly didn't really care for this film too much. Along with a lot of Elm Street fans, it was pretty poorly directed. The girl who was it was Rooney Mara, that was it. I was trying to remember her name. Rooney Mara, who played Nancy in this, was kind of weak when you compare her to Heather Langenkamp. Rooney Mara is a really good actress as well. Social Network, Girl with a Dragon Tattoo. She's done some really, really cool stuff and put in some really strong performances. But in this, I didn't think she was that good. And it seems to be the consensus with a lot of Elm Street fans as well. Jackie Earle Haley, I thought he was okay. I thought he kind of made it his own. I thought the makeup was pretty creepy. But I don't think there was much there in terms of the script for him to kind of get behind. So I I don't think it's the worst film that's come out in this period, but I do think that it struggles to kind of hit the middle tier, at least. I know that. So I'm going to put it in. Let's put it. Hold on a minute. My pad's been wonky. Let's put it in the 4th tier there. Felix, I knew you were into some sketchy shit. Next up, we have Hatchet 2, which was released on October the 1st, 2010. Directed by Adam Green, along with the first one, and I think the 4th one as well. I think he just didn't direct the 3rd one, if I remember right. Daniel Harris, Tony Todd, Kane Hodder, Tom Holland. My notes here say that it was unrated and pulled from theaters due to its graphic content. So there must have been some complaints about it for some reason. I honestly, it's a long time since I've seen Hatchet 2. I didn't feel like it was one of the stronger ones in the series, but it's such a long time since I've seen it. It's probably 15 years since I've seen it. I think I saw it around the time that it came out. 42% with the critics, 40% with the audience. I'm going by what I can remember here. I don't think I thought it was awful when I saw it. I actually quite liked the Hatchet franchise. So I'm just going to take a gamble and put it in the middle here. One generation's tragedy is the next one's joke. Next up, we have Scream 4. I'm actually a Scream 4 fan. I actually really did quite like it. I think it's one of the most violent ones of the series, more so than the last Scream film. I know people laughed at some of the level of some of the violence and some of the crew from Scream surviving some of those knife attacks when they were so violent. But I think Scream 4, there's a more of a darker, ominous tone to this film, and yeah, there's one or two kills in this which really there's the one in the building opposite that they're seeing, and they're trying to get there before the girl gets killed. And she's absolutely been butchered in there. It's a real mess when Nev Campbell turns up. This one was kind of like 10 years or so, 10, 11 years or so after Scream 3. Directed again by Wes Craven. Now, did Kevin Williamson have a hand in writing this? I can't remember. I know he was a producer on it. 111 minutes, 61% with the critics, 56% with the audience. Released on April the 15th, 2011. As I said before, and I've said in some of my rankings in the past on Scream, that I'm a bit of a fan. I'm a bit of a Scream 4 fan. So I'm going to put this up into the 2nd tier here. Why are you screaming? I haven't cut you yet. Let's have a look at the chat, see what's going on. Scream 4 is solid, some really good kills, says Dylan. Let me just move my chat up to the top here. Oh, there's the chat. John Jones says Scream 4 is growing on me. Chris Martow's not a fan of Scream 4. And Steve Ross says Scream 4, Frank's favorite movie. I don't think it is somehow. You would see a lot more Scream on TSL Movie Podcast if we could convert Frank in some way. But that's never going to happen. We know that. Probably the next time we talk about Scream will be when the next film comes out. In which case it'll be he'll just tear it apart for an hour and a half. We'll see. Who knows? This next Scream movie could be fun. You don't know. They seem to be pulling out all the stops in terms of casting. But what that means in terms of the movie itself, whether it's dream sequences, AI, a meta version of the film like New Nightmare, who knows? Frank says, it's so high, it shouldn't even be on this list. Next up, You're Next. Adam Wingard's You're Next came out in 2011, August 23rd, I think, 2011. I really enjoyed this film. It's one of my favorite kind of, if you can call it slasher. It's kind of more home invasion than there are slasher elements to it. I guess it's kind of more home invasion with a twist. Is this film a lot of fun? A lot of nods to Carpenter's work in this film in terms of the tone. Adam Wingard's unashamed Carpenter fan. I mean, like, The Guest was almost like it was directed by John Carpenter. But there are elements of it in Your Next as well. Nods and winks throughout. 61% with the critic, which I think is pretty low for this film. 56% with the audience, which I definitely think is low. Sorry, I'm reading the wrong ones here. Sorry, 79% with the critics, 60% with the audience. Sorry, I was reading out the Scream Rotten Tomatoes score there. A wealthy family's reunion is interrupted by masked killers until one guest turns the tables with unexpected survival skills. Yeah, good movie. And this, for me, is going right up to the... I'm going to put it in the second tier there alongside Scream 4. You just get that right. Why are you screaming? I haven't cut you yet. A Welshman Reviews says, Your Next is a great movie, and Second Sight Films bought out a great set for it. They did. I have it down here. It's one of their really plush kind of Rolls-Royce-like box sets that they're used to doing. It really is a nice little transfer and some great extras on there. Dean Renner sends in $4.99 super chats. Says, hey, Darren, congrats on monetizing the channel already. Cheers. Thank you, Dean. Yeah, hopefully I can get that second stage monetization kicked in the next month or two as well. Once I cross 1,000 subscribers, I'm just over 810 or something like that at the moment. So, folks, if you aren't subscribed, maybe consider it. Help me get to that magic 1,000. I did a video yesterday, which some of you may or may not have checked out, on the physical media purchases that I bought in March. And it's doing quite well so far. It's gaining me quite a few subs, and I've had a few nice comments on it. So if you haven't checked that out, maybe check it out after this. It came out yesterday, March, 4K Blu-ray purchases. Thank you, Dean. Moving on to, where are we now? The Collection. I watched The Collector and The Collection back to back, and so they've both kind of, a bit like the Harry Potter films. They, excuse me, 1 second. A bit like the Harry Potter films for me, they've just kind of molded into this kind of one blob, and I never know what film's what when I watch them. And so The Collector and The Collection, it's a long time since I've seen them. I should refresh my memory on them, but I do remember enjoying them, and I'm kind of looking forward to The Collected or Collective. I can't remember what it's called now. I think it's coming out in the next year or so. They managed to get back on set and finish what they started with that film, according to Marcus Dunstan. So, yeah, this was originally released in November 30, 2012. Again, directed by Marcus Dunstan, Josh Stewart, Emma Fitzpatrick, Christopher McDonald, and Lee Tergesen starred. Rated R, 38% with the critics and 47% with the audience. I do love the mask in this film. Very creepy. Very creepy. A man who escaped a deadly trap is forced to return and face the masked killer known as the Collector to save a young woman. I'm going to put this in the middle. From what I remember, I think I enjoyed it more than I did A Nightmare on Elm Street. So yeah, so it's going in the middle there. Moving on to the next one, which is Texas Chainsaw 3D. This is the one with Alexandra Daddario, released on Jan 4, 2013. 19% with the critics, 37% with the audience. It's probably one of the lowest ranked Texas Chainsaw movies. A direct sequel to the 1974 original, this follows a young woman who inherits a Texas estate only to find Leatherface waiting inside. Again, there was quite a few of these Texas Chainsaw movies back then in the 2000s. I think we're going to cover at least 2 of them within this 10-year period. I remember thinking it was okay. I think I should maybe catch up with it again. Someone needs to bring a box set of all the Texas Chainsaw films out. I can just have a look at them again. But I guess they're all owned by different people these days. I know the rights are out again. Amazon Netflix were the last people to make a Texas Chainsaw film. Those rights are up for grabs again. And really weirdly, the report that I read, and I've read this in a few places as well, is that Glenn Powell, of all people, is interested in the next Texas Chainsaw film. Now, what that means, I've no idea. It didn't say whether it was going to be from a producing standpoint or he wants to star in it. I can't, for the life of me, believe that Glenn Powell is going to star in a Texas Chainsaw film. What would it be, the 8th or 9th Texas Chainsaw movie? I can't believe that. I honestly don't. It might even be the 10th. I can't remember. I honestly don't think that he would do that. He must be thinking of getting behind it from a kind of Michael Bay standpoint as a kind of production gig. Must be. That guy is kind of at the top of his game at the moment with the films that he's been making. So why would he want to kind of jump on a 50-year-old franchise like that with its 10 movies? Can anybody tell me how many Texas Chainsaw movies there's been? I think it's around about 9 or 10 or something like that. So yeah, Texas Chainsaw 3D. From what I can remember, it wasn't very good. She was good. I do like Alexander Daddario. Liked her in what was the True Detective, and also the hotel thing I'm watching on Sky at the moment, HBO. White Lotus. Yeah. I'm going to put it next to the Nightmare on Elm Street. Felix, I knew her into some sketchy shit. 10th movie and he's going to play Leatherface. Well, I'm not sure about that. I think it's the 10th movie, but I'm not going to say what I'll do if he ends up playing Leatherface, because stranger things have happened in the past. But yeah, who knows? Who knows what he's going to do? Moving on to June 21st, 2013, a limited release in the US for Frank Calhoun's Maniac. Obviously, the retelling of the William Lustig film that came out, the Video Nasty. Was it a video? Was Maniac a Video Nasty? I think it was a Video Nasty. That came out in 1980 with Joe Spinell. Elijah Wood. Yeah, that's why Elijah Wood's done all these crazy horror movies over the years, hasn't he? So it might not be too odd to think that Glenn Powell would do a Texas Chainsaw film. Yeah, Elijah Wood, of course, being in one of the most profitable franchises of all time with Lord of the Rings. 89 minutes, 53% with the critics, 44% with the audience. It was very different to the original Maniac. The original Maniac's a real sleaze fest. But it's kind of one of those sort of, I guess, milestone horrors in the 80s. Some great Tom Savini work in that one. There was some interesting effects work in this film as well. The synopsis is a reimagining of the 1980 cult classic told from the killer's POV. A mannequin store owner stalks and scalps women while battling his own trauma. Yeah, it was okay. I'm actually, I was surprised with this when I saw it. I've only seen it the once. I don't own it. Maybe I should take another look at it. But I'm going to put it in the middle there. I actually thought it wasn't too bad. Let me see what's been said here. Brandon Collins says, there's a big push from Texas-born actors to bring more film production to the state, and they're looking at existing IPs. Powell is part of the group along with McConaughey, Harrelson, and Quaid. Okay. So there's like a kind of, I guess, conglomerate of Texas-born actors trying to bring the franchise home, I guess. That would be interesting. Wow, I'm stunned that all those. Quaid? Which Quaid? Jack? Dennis? Randy? Is he still alive? I can't remember. Interesting. Thanks for that, Brandon. Shamrock says, I just gave my old Maniac DVD to my 76-year-old parents to watch. Would love to be a fly on the wall. Are you serious? Seriously? It's a grubby little picture, is that? I love the artwork for it, though. The artwork on Maniac is terrific, where he's holding the head. That's fantastic. If you did that, then good for you. Hatchet 3, released on June 14th, 2013. 81 minutes long. Directed by B.J. McDonnell. I always thought Adam Green did all of them, but maybe he didn't. Unless AI's letting me down again. Rotten Tomatoes scores 57%. I can't see that there's a critic score there, but it says here, picking up immediately after Hatchet 2, Mary Beth teams up with a SWAT team and a journalist to finally destroy Victor Crowley once and for all, but the body count keeps rising. Favorite moment, it says here, is Crowley ripping a man in half mid-air. Practical effects insanity at its finest. Shamrock comes back with, yes, Darren, I am serious. That was the cover artwork too. Great. Oh, I hope they enjoy it. What now? Again, they sort of blend into one of the Hatchet films. I'm going to put it in the middle. I do quite like the franchise. I think it's fun. I think it's a nice little gig for Kane Hodder. And there's always it's always kind of a who's who of different sort of convention horror alum, I guess, with these movies. Next up is Wolf Creek 2. The Wolf Creek franchise has been interesting. I kind of like it. I like the TV series. I think the first film is kind of the best of the franchise, both on the small screen and the large screen. There is a new film that Greg McLean's putting into production pretty soon. It's been talked about for so long now, and there's been posters for ages, but I think he's finally got the funding to do it. I kind of enjoyed Wolf Creek 2. It's not as... I think the thing about Wolf Creek 1 was, I think it was kind of based on some true cases, and it genuinely is really scary. Wolf Creek 2 is more kind of veering into sort of having fun with Mick Taylor. It's kind of more slasher territory than the first one. Australian serial killer Mick Taylor returns, gleefully stalking and tormenting new tourists in the outback with even more sadism and dark humor. Yeah. Starring John Jarratt, as usual, Ryan Corr, Shannon Ashlin, and Philippe Klaus. I like Wolf Creek. I like the franchise. I'm not sure I like it as much as Your Next and Scream 4, so I'm going to put it in the middle alongside Hatchet. The Hatchet franchise, Collection, and Maniac. One generation's tragedy is the next one's joke. I got criticized on my... It's funny how people go, you missed this. They don't talk about the 27 films you included and say, good job. They go, oh, you're not a fan of this then? You're not a fan of this? You don't like this film? You didn't include this? I missed some Chucky stuff off last time. But I've got Curse of Chucky in here, and I think the next Child's Play film as well. Curse of Chucky. What did I can barely remember it, if I'm honest. I have seen it the once. I am planning to go through all the Chucky films with this great Arrow 4K box set that I bought recently. I'm going to go through them from beginning to end. I did see the Don Mancini documentary, Living with Chuck, was it? Or something like that, which I thought was excellent. And I really hope that at some point they bring one of these kind of 5-hour, 8-hour documentaries out about the Halloween franchise, because there's not a great deal out there in documentary-wise, or not. There aren't enough documentaries out there that dig deep enough on the Halloween franchise, like the Crystal Lake Memories and Never Sleep Again one. I think Crystal Lake Memories was like 8 hours or something. Never Sleep Again was about 5 hours. And I mean, there's the TV documentary. Let me see if I can find it. There's that one. There's the inside story on the first Halloween, which is a good watch. I've also got one of these, which Mr. Rose in the chat bought me. I think he bought me this one, and he bought me a Jaws one, which was a TV documentary. History Channel, was it, or something like that did these. But there's a Jaws one as well that I've got. And Mr. Rose in the chat bought me those years and years ago. And they are worth watching. They're worth having. They're just kind of really a deep dive on mainly the first film, and then they touch on the sequels. But it would be great one day to see all of the a big kind of 8-9 hour documentary on all the Halloween films. And let's face it, if you're going to do it, get a move on, because when you're talking those first two films, the casts are getting shorter and shorter. We're losing them. But anyway, who knows? Maybe there'll be something for the 50th anniversary in 2 or 3 years' time. Hopefully there is. And Shamrock says that Chucky documentary is including on that box set, Darren. It is. It is on there. I think I watched it on Shudder, but it is on there. But so anyway, back to Curse of Chucky. Chucky returns in a Back to Basics reboot sequel, tormenting a paraplegic woman and her family in a gothic mansion. As the bodies pile up, his past begins to resurface. This is the one with Fiona Dourif, isn't it? I thought this was quite fun. I'm remembering it now. Yes. I'm gonna go second tier with this. I thought it was quite good. But the critics score was 76%, 51% with the audience. Released on October 8, 2013. Favorite moment, the dinner table scene. Poison paranoia, silent tension, and Chucky watching it all unfold with a smirk. Second tier there. Why are you screaming? I haven't cut you yet. The Final Girls. I liked The Final Girls. Final Girls was fun because, it was a real love letter to those kind of 80s campfire slasher movies, and done really well. It's a shame that it was a PG-13. I'd have liked to have seen them go a bit more all in, but it was a long time, I think, since I'd seen a movie done in that kind of format. So when it came around, and, in the UK, there was no way this was getting a theatrical release. I'm not even sure it got one in the US. It was straight to streaming, and I saw it, I think, on the opening weekend. I think on the opening weekend it was released on streaming. I think I just took a gamble on it and actually really enjoyed it. 74% with the critics, 70% with the audience. Final Girls is good. I'm gonna put it up to the top here on the second tier. I don't even look, folks. I've not pre-planned where I'm putting these at all. I don't know if I'm going to have anything to put at the top, but we'll see. We'll see. Let's have a look at the chat. See what's going on here. The Horrorholic says, "Awesome! I'm watching on my work break. Thanks, buddy." Brandon Collins says, "Daniel Farron's the writer of Six, did both the Never Sleep Again and Crystal Lake memory docs. There might be some development for a Halloween doc. I hope so. I know that you're in touch with that guy. So it'd be great if they do something. It'll be huge for fans. I mean, it'll outsell all those Crystal Lake and Freddy documentaries, I would have thought. Yeah, it'd be so cool to see something like that." Welshman Reviews says, "Fiona Dourif brings a breath of fresh air into the franchise, just as Jennifer Tilly did." And Dean Renner says, I've seen the inside story, and it's a great look at Halloween. I need to own it." Yeah, you can pick it up on eBay, I think. Biography Channel, maybe it was, not the History Channel. Biography Channel. You can pick them up on eBay. I'm not sure whether they're still readily available. But yeah. Mr. Rose in the chat. Maybe he'll sort you out like he sorted me out. I don't know. I think it was a Christmas present from him, along with the Jaws one. Eli Cortez says, "What's up, Darren and fellow Sands fans? Hey, buddy." And Chris Martow says, "Any other behind-the-scenes docs worth watching besides The Shark Is Still Working and Crystal Lake Memories?" Yeah, Never Sleep Again's good. There's a few slasher ones that Christian on Planet CHH mentioned the other day, which I haven't seen, which I did order. I think one of them's in Nightmares in Red, White, and Blue. The American Nightmare's another one, and then there's a specific doc on slashers, and I found them all on DVD. I don't think they do them on any other format. I found them all on eBay yesterday. Let me just find out what that other one was. Amazon, because I did order them. Nightmares in Red, White, and Blue, The American Nightmare, and can't remember the title of the other one. But there were 3 slasher documentaries. But still, my favorite, I think my favorite horror documentary, and I mention this a lot. Lost it now. I think it's down at the bottom somewhere. Terror in the Isles, I think, is my favorite horror documentary. Although, I should give a shout out to these because I did help crowdfund these. In Search of Darkness Part 1, terrific. Part 2 as well. I mean, these are kind of like 4 or 5 hours, these documentaries. They're really well done. Part 3, I mean, there's like 15, 16 hours just in the first 3 parts. And then earlier this year, they brought out the 90s edition as well, 1990 to 1994. I gather they're working on one from 95 onwards. But if you haven't, I mean, they're quite pricey if you were to buy them, because obviously there's a lot of production costs that were involved in making them. If you can get hold of them, they are worth it. And they're worth backing if you ever get the opportunity. The same team are behind the Aliens documentary, which was also excellent. That was 5 hours long. They've also greenlit a Thing documentary, which is coming back end of this year, I think. Yeah. I think it's back end of this year is the Thing one. It's the Thing Expanded, and the other one was called Aliens Expanded. Well worth a watch. You know, when you crowdfund these things, when you help crowdfund these things, there's always a kind of element of doubt in your head as to whether the production values are going to be as good as the trailers they put together for them. And they always are. They've never failed to deliver in terms of, you know, how deep they go and the people that they get to interview. They're all well worth it. And you can get some really good deals. Like, you know, I think I paid like £100 to back the movie, get your name in the credits, get digital versions, posters, the actual Blu-ray, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, they're really they're worth doing if you can afford it. Brandon says Terror in the Isles is available here on YouTube. Yeah, if you haven't seen it, guys, check it out. It's a really cool horror documentary. It's kind of its time. It's early 80s, 84, I think it was. But Donald Pleasance is hosting it along with Nancy Allen, and it's where I learned a hell of a lot about horror from that documentary. There were so many clips on there that I had no idea about. And, you know, like The Brood. I think I learned about The Brood from that documentary. I think I learned about Texas Chainsaw from that documentary. The Exorcist was banned in the UK, so you got all the juicy bits on the Terror in the Isles documentary. So, folks, if you haven't seen it, it's a great bit of nostalgia. You should definitely take a look. Okay, Hush, Flanagan, amazing director. Really, really curious to see what he's going to do with this Exorcist movie. Can't wait to, you know, to see if he can breathe new life into it after Exorcist Believer. Although I didn't mind Exorcist Believer. I wasn't a hater like everybody was. I just thought it was fine. I do own it as well. You know, I went in there, watched it. There was 1 or 2 genuinely creepy moments and jump scares. I know most people kind of were against it from the beginning and really couldn't bring themselves to watch it, or if they did watch it, they were immediately against it. There was just that kind of gravy train of hate towards it, and I'm not talking about maybe anybody that's watching this right now, but just in general, people really took against it. And if you take it for the movie that it is, and kind of isolate everything else, it's actually not that bad. It's okay. But Hush, one of Flanagan's earlier films, I remember sitting at home one day I was ill. I was off work ill, and I texted a friend of mine, and I'd kind of been like off horror for a little bit, weirdly. I don't know how that happened, but I was off horror for a little bit, and I said, look, can you recommend a really good horror that might be on Netflix at the moment? And he just wrote back straight away, Hush. I'd never heard of it. I put it on. I thought it was terrific. A really great concept, a deaf-mute woman living in isolation, kind of being stalked by this mass killer, this kind of real cat and mouse game. genuinely creepy. That guy knows how to generate real atmosphere. 93% with the critics, 73% with the audience. I don't know. I think, does this go to the top? Because I really do think that in some ways this is Flanagan's kind of nod and wink to Halloween. Just in the way that in the imagery in the film, you know, this masked killer with this pale blank white face just appearing in the background. The killer, as the movie goes along, kind of sort of develops into something that's kind of starts off being like a bit like Michael Myers, but then ends up being something else. But the first half of the movie, I think, is terrific. The movie on the whole is great, but I think it kind of peaks too early for me. Does this film? But I do agree that it's nicely crafted, and it was a surprise because I didn't get a cinema release here, and I'd absolutely never heard of it. So I'm going to put it into the second tier. Why are you screaming? I haven't cut you yet. Michael Myers. My interest in the Exorcist franchise is now below zero. Michael Myers says, no horrors from the last 30 years deserved. You got out the wrong side of the bed today, mate. Bloody hell. No horrors from the last 30 years deserve top tier. Eli Cortez, did anyone get the autographed Hush poster from Scream Factory? Yeah, I saw they'd done a number of different versions of this. I actually really fancy picking one of them up, certainly the 4K one. And Blum was a producer on this. I hadn't realized. Jason Blum. Okay, moving on to Terrifier. I've told this story before on TSL. Again, I think it was around the same time that I was off work for a good few months with some. Thankfully, I'm over them now. I think pretty much. I had a very bad period with problems with my lungs, and so I was off work for 2 or 3 months. About 10 years ago, maybe slightly less. And around that time, the same friend recommended Terrifier to me too. And it was on streaming, VHS or whatever, a DVD at the time. And I put that on. I'm sat in my lounge, 3:30 in the afternoon, watching Terrifier. And that moment with Catherine Cochran comes on when Art the Clown splits her in two, naked. And I live quite close to a main road, and there are kids that come home from school, and you know I was sat there watching this, and I realized that there were kids walking past my house that could see right in with this imagery on my screen, and I was like, Jesus Christ! So I ended up having to close all the curtains and blinds and watch this movie in the dark on 3:30 in the afternoon. I think there's something genuinely creepy about the first Terrifier. I think the lack of any, you know, meaningful budget that the film had kind of adds to that. A bit like, you know, it did with The Evil Dead, a bit like it did with Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original film. And so there's something really grungy and grubby and dirty about this film that I really like. And there's some genuinely creepy moments. I know that as the kind of franchise has gone on, a lot of it is kind of played for laughs to kind of soften the excess of the gore. But in this first film, I thought it was genuinely quite a nasty picture. And when Frank and I went to For the Love of Horror last year, they did a screening of it the night before the convention. They did it with Catherine Cochran, and she talked her way through that sequence of Art the Clown chopping the woman in half. She was there on the stage doing a commentary with her naked self on the screen. And it was fascinating to see because she was so articulate, intelligent, and, you know, she was honest about the fact that given the, you know, the budget restrictions on the film, there were certain, you know, there weren't as many safety coordinators on set as they might have liked. And she was hanging upside down for quite a long period of time, and it affected her for quite a little while afterwards in terms of, dizzy spells and back problems, things like that. She was really upfront and honest about it. And it kind of distracted people's attention away from the fact that, there's this really awkward sequence of violence and nudity that everybody's looking at. And at the moment that she'd finished doing her commentary on that sequence, the audience all applauded. They gave her a massive round of applause. It wasn't people there giggling or anything like that. People were genuinely invested in what she had to say. And, she got a huge round of applause and a lot of love that weekend from the Terrifier fan base. I'm a fan of Terrifier. I talked yesterday about the Art Attack box set that I've got. I'm not a huge fan, but I do appreciate what Damien Leone's done for horror and for horror cinema on the big screen. I do like the first Terrifier film. I love the scores that he's produced for these movies as well. I think they're really unsettling. I'm going to put it up to the second tier there. I know there's a lot of people that really don't like these films. Just see them as kind of torture porn and gore porn or whatever you want to call them. But I actually do... I love the buzz around them. I love the fact that movies like Terrifier are putting horror back on the map. I don't think that they're giving them a bad name because, at this point, Terrifier's tongue is well and truly firmly in its cheek, and it's doing our genre a lot of good, and I'm all for that, and I'm all for it doing, horror on the big screen a lot of good as well, and it has done. 90 million on a $2.5 million budget, fucking unbelievable. Long may it continue. Okay, second tier it's gone in. Why Are You Screaming? I Haven't Cut You Yet. Next up, Victor Crowley, 2017. This was a movie, I think I spoke about this before, whereas Adam Green shot it in private. Well, you shot it in secrecy, in private. I make it sound like he's gone in his bathroom and done it. He shot it in secrecy and unveiled it at Fright Fest in London. I think the crowd thought they were going in to see a 10th anniversary screening of the original Hatchet, and he unveiled Victor Crowley and screened it. Film's okay. It's fine. It's fine. I can't. Again, I've seen it once. I can't really remember it that much. They sort of blur into one. But it says the synopsis is: a decade after the Honey Island swamp massacre, sole survivor Andrew is pulled back when a plane crash resurrects Victor Crowley, and the legend is bloodier than ever. 67% on Rotten Tomatoes. That sounds high. Anyway. Where am I putting it? Again, they all blend into one for me, so I'm putting it in the middle tier there. One generation's tragedy is the next one's joke. Let me just have a look at the chat. Michael Myers says, I had to close the curtains from shame when I watched Mamma Mia. Brandon Collins says, Michael Myers, I almost shoved ice picks in my ears after hearing Pierce Brosnan sing. Yeah, Pat. I don't know who you're talking about there. Dean Renner says, I'm not big on Terrifier, but what Damien and his team have been able to do for independent horror is incredible. It is. It's fantastic. Craig Jack says the sequel was just too long for what the film was. Funnily enough, I actually prefer Terrifier 2 to 3. I think it has more of a third act. Terrifier 3 seemed a lot more kind of scaled back and not as adventurous as Terrifier 2. Frankie D says Terrifier franchise is mid-tier horror for me. I'm not crazy for it, but I don't dislike it. And Dom Mack says the Terrifier movies fit Roger Ebert's review of The Thing, a geek show that you dare your friends to watch without looking away. And Chester says, I'm not a fan of the Terrifier movies. That's okay, Chester. You're still welcome here. Happy Death Day. Nice concept. Kind of got on my nerves a little bit. This kind of Groundhog Day with the slasher. I do like the director, Christopher Landon. I'm looking forward to his new film. Is it The Drop that's coming out in a few weeks? The one where the girl goes on a blind date. She gets a call in the middle of the blind date, and the call is telling her that she has to kill her blind date in order to save her son who's been kidnapped from her house while she's been out. Looks interesting. It's Blumhouse, so I'm kind of, my expectations are in check. However, the reviews out of South by Southwest were really good. I think this comes out in the next 2 weeks, The Drop. But yeah, Christopher Landon directed it. Obviously, when he gave up the Scream 7 gig last year, he obviously went off and directed The Drop straight away. So yeah, looking forward to that. But Happy Death Day, Rotten Tomatoes 71%, critics score 66%. It's a nice little concept. It is kind of a little bit sort of safe for me, PG-13 horror. But nonetheless, it was a nice little idea. Going in the middle there. One generation's tragedy is the next one's joke. What does Blake say? Blake says, you look better today, Darren. I enjoyed Happy Death Day. Saw a similar film recently, but can't remember the name of it. Time travel movie where she finds her mother's killer. Totally Killer, I think you mean. Was that the one? Or was it the one that went on Netflix, which I can't remember? There was Totally Killer, and then there was one that went on Netflix that was very similar, and I can't remember the name of that one. Did I look ill yesterday or something? You dropped a message underneath my video I recorded yesterday saying you look ill or something. I felt fine. I've been having migraines, but they've sort of cleared up now. But yeah, thanks for your concern, Blake. And I watched your stream on Pat's channel last night, and I found it. There was one moment where I actually belly laughed on the train because Ronnie and Blake from All the Good Names Are Taken asked Pat and Brat. Yeah, Pat and Brett. Fuck or kill, Darren or Frank. And I was just like, oh my God. Thank you for that. And what came out of it was apparently Brett and Blake would fuck me. So, yeah. Anyway. Leatherface. Leatherface was god awful. I didn't enjoy that Texas Chainsaw film whatsoever. Let me have a look here. Leatherface was October the 20th, 2017, directed DVD or VOD. Julian Maury and Alexander Bustillo. These are the guys that directed Inside, that one of my favorite horror movies of all time. And they just made a mess of this. It was just boring. I think this was one that's going to have to go in the bottom. A really poor Texas Chainsaw movie. Dean and Blake. Darren's just trying to get to the beautiful, beautiful river. Yeah, Totally Killer. You look like the preacher driving Loomis around yesterday. Had me worried. Really? Did I look that bad? Oh my God. I think you're just winding me up. The Babysitter, 2017, directed by McG. He of Charlie's Angels, Terminator Salvation, I think he did. All sorts of Netflix fodder that he's done over the years. Samara Weaving, Judah Lewis, Hannah May Lee, Robbie Amell, and Bella Thorne. Direct to Netflix, this was. 72% critic score, 62% audience score. I believe there's been 2 of these films, if I remember rightly. One came out a few years ago as well. A young boy discovers his hot babysitter is part of a satanic cult, and he's their next sacrifice. I thought it was okay. I did quite like it. I'm not a massive McG fan. I think he's incredibly hit and miss. He has done a couple of good movies. This kind of reminded me a little bit of Better Watch Out, if you remember that one. I think that might have been direct to Netflix movie as well. I can't remember. But Yeah, I'm going to go in the middle alongside Happy Death Day, Victor Crowley and his mob. One Generation's Tragedy is the next one's joke. And then we get to Strangers Pray at Night. A decent thriller. I always really liked the trailer for this film. With the, I'm trying to think of the song that they played on. Was it I Think We're Alone Now? Tiffany, was it Tiffany song that they used in the trailer? Anyway, it was something like that. It was a real kind of 80s pop song that they used on the trailer. And it's a good little slasher film. Johannes Roberts, who did he did the Resident Evil remake a couple of years ago. Another remake of Resident Evil. There's one coming out next year as well. Christina Hendricks, Bailey Madison, Lewis Pullman, Martin Henderson. March 9th, 2018. 39% with the critics and 37% of the audience. I think that's pretty low compared to the recent Strangers movie that came out, which I am yet to see, but everybody tells me not to bother. Everybody tells me not to bother with that new Strangers film. I will watch it at some point. It's just I'm not going to spend $20 or £20 or whatever on it. I'll wait until there's a decent opportunity for me to just kind of stream it and get it out of the way on Netflix or something like that. But there is another Strangers movie coming out later this year, September, I think. All directed by Rennie Harlin. He's shot 3 back-to-back. From what I can gather about the first one that he brought, the remake that he brought out, I hope that they've had enough time to kind of make the subsequent 2 films better. But this one, the 2018 Strangers sequel, I actually really quite liked. Craig Jex says the Strangers sequel is a masterpiece compared to Rennie Harlin's Chapter 1. Really? Okay. Well, I liked the Strangers Pray at Night. I'm gonna put it in the middle. I don't think it's up there with the likes of Your Next for me, but I do like the film. Hellfest from 2018, directed by Gregory Plotkin, produced by Gail Ann Hurd. Is that right? She produced this? Amy Forsyth, Rain Edwards, Bex Taylor Klaus, and Tony Todd. Tony Todd had a run of popping up in movies like this, didn't he? Released on September the 28th, 2018. 89 minutes long, 39% with the critic, 47% with the audience. I didn't mind this. I thought it was okay. Just fine. It's not good enough to go in the middle tier, though. It's going to go in the second from bottom one. Felix, I knew, were into some sketchy shit. It's about a group of friends attend a Halloween horror theme park where a masked killer hides among the attractions and begins picking them off. Favorite moment is down as the guillotine kill in the prop room. Brutal and eerily quiet. There's another film that came out around the same time, which we're going to get to in a minute, was fairly similar, and I actually thought that was slightly better, so we'll talk about that in a minute. Halloween 2018. My God, the hype behind this, and being around when it was all kicking off and all the YouTube channels really kind of cashing in on, the period leading up to it. The pre-production, the production, the little stills that we got. Is this Michael here? Is that his mask? Can we zoom in on it? And it's just a white blob you can't quite see. The fact that they managed to keep the mask under wraps until they released that poster, I thought was fantastic. You know, I'm not sure today they would be able to hold it that long. And the film was good. Like, I do like it. I think it has a lot of problems. I think, the main one being that the movie kind of collapses 2/3 of the way through, but they do bring it back home. I'm really dying to see the stuff that they didn't use, the stuff that was in the test screening, the knife fight between Michael and Laurie, him bleeding out, which we've seen pictures of. We know it exists. So at some point, maybe the 10th anniversary, which is coming round sooner than you think, folks. It's 2015 now. It's it's not 2015. It's 2025 now. What am I talking about? It's 2025 now. 2028 will be the 10th anniversary. So we're already 7 years down the road since this movie came out. That means I've been listening to Dave McRae for about 8-9 years now, because he was the first channel that I latched onto when all this kind of shenanigans started with a new Halloween movie coming up. Released on October the 19th, 2018. I was lucky enough to see this film good 2-3 weeks before it came out at a press screening. It was very difficult not to be able to talk about it. I didn't have a YouTube channel back then. Dave had seen it. He'd been to the world premiere at TIFF, Toronto Film Festival. And so we were able to kind of converse about it over Messenger. 79% with the critics, 70% with the audience. 40 years after the original killings, Laurie Strode faces Michael Myers once again in this direct sequel to the 1978 film, ignoring all other sequels. Where am I putting it? It doesn't deserve to be at the top, I don't think, but I'm going to put it second from top, next to Terrifier there. I know Brandon is a huge fan of this, and I think it's possibly his second favorite Halloween movie. Is that right, Brandon? I think you're a huge fan, aren't you? Frank was... What was Frank saying in the chat there? What is that about? That's because Darren has nice, soft, lotion skin. Nobody want a rough, beerly man, beerly-like man who takes matters into his own hands. Plus, I'm a topper. What is this about? I can't even see what this is all about. Don Mack says, I call it David Gordon Green's Halloween instead of Halloween 2018. That label matches John Carpenter's Halloween and Rob Zombie's Halloween for the other two movies with the same title. Yeah, I don't know whether there was conversations ever about whether he could put his name over the top of it, but I would imagine that Blumhouse wanted everybody to know that it was Blumhouse's Halloween, even though it's not called that. There was obviously a big, huge thing about the fact that Blumhouse had taken on this franchise. And I wouldn't have thought Jason Blum would have wanted anybody to overshadow him at all. Yeah, so that goes in the second tier there. Why are you screaming? I haven't cut you yet. Happy Death Day to you. I didn't get it. Honestly, it was such a diversion from the first film. And a lot of people kind of embraced that. I didn't. It was just, I found it confusing. It's kind of turned into a sci-fi movie all of a sudden. A shame. It was reviewed quite well. 70% with the critics, 58% with the audience, slightly less than the last Happy Death Day film. Again, directed by Christopher Landon. I think out of Happy Death Day to you, I think Christopher Landon's best film so far is Freaky, the Vince Vaughn film. I really liked that. I thought it was great. Again, this was another PG-13 horror, which, unless they're done really well and really smartly, I tend to stay away from a lot of PG-13 horror, especially when they're remakes of hard R-rated horrors, like, you know, the likes of not When a Stranger Calls, but Prom Night and things like that. Yeah, Happy Death Day to You, I wasn't a massive fan of, so it's going in the second to bottom section for me. Felix, I knew were into some sketchy shit. And the synopsis for that is Tree Gelbman is once again stuck in a time loop, this time in a parallel universe where she must stop another killer and fix the timeline. Box office on this was pretty poor, and so it kind of it stopped production on any further films in this franchise, I think, because they were talking about a third Happy Death Day film. Child's Play. Directed by Lars Klevberg, Aubrey Plaza, Brian Tyree Henry, Mark Hamill as the voice of Chucky. It was okay. I didn't mind it. Felt like, you know, it almost, this period for Child's Play, when you had Don Mancini's TV show going on and this film in the cinemas, felt like that time, whereas you had Octopussy and Never Say Never Again, the Bond films. One felt official, the other one didn't. And so it was difficult to take it seriously. It wasn't bad, actually. I didn't mind it. It was okay. In fact, I am going to actually put it in the middle. One generation's tragedy is the next one's joke. Released on June 21st, 2019. 64% with the critics, 57% with the audience. A modern reimagining of the 1988 classic. This time, Chucky is a rogue AI doll who turns violent when his programming is tampered with. I think it's good. I think it was okay. I do think it was okay. It missed Brad Dourif. I wasn't sure that Mark Hamill quite nailed it. But yeah, I didn't think it was as bad as a lot of people made out. Frank says, Happy Death Day to You is a Quantum Leap movie. Jordan Moran says, no Summer of 84, Darren. You're doing a wonderful job. Yeah, Summer of 84. Oh, God, okay. Look, people just, you missed this. Shut up, Jordan. I did like Summer of 84 as well. But Summer of 84 is not really a slasher film, is it? Isn't it like linked to a famous murderer? Or I can't remember now. Listen, Final Girls is on there. That's enough. And then finally we have Haunt. Scott Beck and Brian Woods. Produced by Eli Roth. Katie Stevens, Will Britton, Laurie McLean, and Andrew Caldwell. I think this went straight to VOD. I'm not sure, but I actually quite liked it. 71% with the critics, 67% with the audience. On Halloween night, a group of friends enter an extreme haunted house that turns deadly when they realize the masked performers aren't acting. I thought this was better than Hellfest, and I'm going to put it in the middle there. Will it fit? Yes, it will. And that's it. That's the final one, folks. So starting at the bottom, if they don't let us play, they all go away. Tier 5, the worst tier. We have Leatherface. Fourth tier, Felix, I knew we were into some sketchy shit. We have a Nightmare on Elm Street, Texas Chainsaw 3D, Hellfest, and Happy Death Day to You. Third tier, One Generation's Tragedy is the next one's joke. Hatchet 2, The Collection, Maniac, Hatchet 3, Wolf Creek 2, Victor Crowley, Happy Death Day, The Babysitter, Strangers Pray at Night, Child's Play, and Haunt. Second tier, Why Are You Screaming? I Haven't Cut You Yet. We have Scream 4, You're Next, Bride of Chucky, Final Girls, Hush, Terrifier, and Halloween. And then in the top tier, He Is a Killer, but He Will Be Killed Tonight. Nothing. There weren't enough good slash films in my eyes to take that top tier during 2010 to 2019. Yeah. So that's how it pans out, folks. Comment below and let me know where you would put yours. I'd be really interested to hear whether you agree with this ranking or whether you think, are there any films within that bunch there that you believe would be in the top tier? It's quite possible that you think that way. But yeah, let me know. I'd really like to hear from people and what their thoughts are on this. I'm just going to pop over to this screen here because my co-host has just dropped me a super chat. Thank you, buddy. It says, use this for an advance on my TSL membership. He's still bitter about that, aren't you? He's still bitter about the fact he has to buy a membership for his own channel. Thank you, buddy. That's really kind of you. I would imagine Frank and I think, are going live this Sunday. So we tried to get together earlier this week on TSL. I was ill at the weekend. We tried to schedule it for Tuesday, and then something else got in the way. But we are thinking of going live on Sunday. The show's scheduled, barring any illness or hiccups or anything like that. We will be live on Sunday. I'm not quite sure what the topic will be yet. Plenty of time to think about it. I've got a busy few days. I'm going to Ireland Thursday and Friday. I've then got family staying over the weekend. So as soon as they're out of the door, I'll be jumping online with Frank, and we'll bring a live episode because it will be over 2 weeks at that point, which is pretty slack. But you guys have had the solo stuff, so the solo stuff is really good when Frank and I can't get together. It's great. You know, there's still a lot of stuff going on our solo channel. So check out Frankly Speaking, Frank Riker's channel. There's plenty of content on my channel that you may not have seen as well. And that stuff will keep coming. and whenever it's possible. It's always difficult to schedule because there are all sorts of little variables we have to take into account with family and our own work commitments, and the time difference is always difficult as well. So it's been getting more difficult recently to kind of get together, but we are trying to do it, and we're also trying to record 2 episodes, 2 best and worst of episodes this Sunday as well. So we're going to do an hour or two's recording and then a live stream, and so I can get those kind of live those pre-recorded episodes out if we fail to kind of connect over the coming weeks. I haven't mentioned this to Frank yet, but I have a feeling that one of those pre-recorded episodes we're going to do on Sunday will be Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, because we promised we'd do it for Easter, and it feels like a good time now to record it to be able to get it out for you guys at Easter. That's about it, folks. That's all I've got. Check out my episode I did yesterday about all my recent physical media purchases. I'm going to do more of those as the month goes on and as more kind of stuff comes in, and then a recap at the end of the month probably. Something I quite like doing. I don't really do it on TSL. And another reason why we do these solo channels is that we do things that we don't necessarily want to do together. So Frank has his little grubby little pickups, his comics and all that kind of stuff, and his little rants that he does over there. And then I have the physical media side of things and the kind of rankings and stuff, that we don't normally do on TSL. So, yes, please, the original Willy Wonka, the Wonka, not the remake. No, not the remake. The reason why we want to do the original is because it fits into our category of best kills and worst kills. Because, in all honesty, do we really know what happens to the kids when they're carted off? We don't. So you could say that because we never see Augustus Gloop again when he goes out the pipe, who knows? And I know for a fact that we see a chicken getting beheaded in Willy Wonka in that horrible dream sequence. So I think it fits with our best and worst of formula. So definitely going to be doing it. Probably pre-recording it this Sunday. It'll be a nice treat for Easter. Frankie D, hello sir, says great stream, Darren. I love your recent physical media pickups, by the way. Very nice. No worries. I enjoyed doing that. Glad you enjoyed the episode. Paul says, Frank, phew. Chester Franklin says, never knew there was a remake. Chester, there are 2 remakes of Willy Wonka. There was one with Johnny Depp in the early 2000s, and then there was one, well, the one that came out last year with Timothée Chalamet was a prequel, I believe, to Willy Wonka. So there's been 2 separate Willy Wonka movies since. Okay, that's it, folks. I'm going to go get some dinner and then prep for my early start tomorrow. But thank you for joining me. Thank you for subscribing. Those of you that have subscribed over the last day, there's been quite a few over the last day or so. Thank you very much. I'll try and get some more physical media, 10-minute tiers, that kind of stuff out. There may be a little gap now because I've got a full calendar between now and probably next Sunday. But yeah, I'll do what I can to get some more stuff out. And in the meantime, thanks, everybody. Thanks for the super chats, by the way, as well. Dean and Frank. Thanks for those super chats. That's really kind of you. And I shall see you all very soon, folks. See you Sunday, live, TSL. I think it's 4 o'clock. We may try and squeeze it in a green room. Not quite sure yet because of the pre-records, but we'll let you know. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye-bye.